What is a taxable event under the GST? The incident of tax is a foundation stone by a taxation system. It has determined the point at which tax would be levied, that is a taxable event, and in as while the platform framework of the taxable event is various statute was prone to catara or an interruption resulting in litigation since the decades. Broadly, the contravention related to issue like whether the particular process amounts to manufacture or not, whether the sale is predetermined sale, whether the particular transaction is sale of goods or rendering of service, etc. The GST law seeks a resolution to the issue of laying down one comprehensive taxable event, that is supply. GST law, which is levy tax on supply. 7. On the goods and service will depart from the historic understood concept taxable event under the state VAT laws, excise laws, service laws, that is sales, manufacturing, service respectively. In the GST regime, the entire value of supply of goods and service would be taxed in the integrated manner, unlike existing indirect taxes, which is charged independently either in the manufacture or sale of goods or the provision of the service. Taxable event under the old law, taxes high, rendering services of VAT, GST sales, excise, manufacture. But in the taxable under the GST, supply of goods and service. Only this is only there. Define the related terms under CGST Act 2017. Terms, relevant terms, goods. Section 2, class 52. Definition means every kind of movable property goods other than money and securities goods, but include actionable claims, growing crops, crops which are attached or forming part of the land, which is agreed to be sold before the supply or under the contract to supply. Electronic commerce operators means a person who owns or operates and manage a digital or electronic facility or platform in for electronic commerce. Then is an electronic commerce operator. Exempt supply section 2 class 27 means supply of goods or supply of service or both. It's exempted and attracts nil rated of tax or which may be wholly exempted from tax under section 11 under the section 6 of integrated goods and service tax, including non-taxable supply. Business 2 class 17 includes any trade, any commerce, business is manufacture, business is profession, business is vocation, business is adventure, business is wager, which is business is any other similar activities which are not a peculiar benefit. Any activity or any transaction connected with the incidental or auxiliary subclass of this trade, commerce, manufacture, profession, vocation, adventure, wager, and other similar activities is business. Any activity or transaction in the nature of subclass A, whether or not in volume or frequently or continuity or regularity, such transaction is business. Supply of acquisition of goods includes capital goods and supply acquisition of services in connection with the commencement or close of business is business. Provision of the provision by club, association, society, any other body, or subscription of any of the consideration or facility or benefit of members. Admission for consideration of a person or by a permit. Service supplied by a person or a holder of an office which may be accepted by him within course and furtherance of the trade, a profession or vocation. Activity of a race club including a way of a totalizer or a license of a bookmaker or activities of a licensed bookmaker such a club. Any activity or transaction undertaken by central government, any activity or transaction undertaken by the state government or any other local authority in which engage in public authority, then is business. Now, totalizer is an electronic device that holds the bets of various pounder and also divides the total wager bets amount which is distributed to the winning pounder. Consideration in relating to supply of goods or service both include payment made or to be made, whether it is money or otherwise, respect or response to, or the introduced of a supply of goods or service or both, whether by a recipient or by any person, shall not include a subsidiary given by the central government. Subsidiary will not be a consideration. Monetary value to act on the forbearance of respect of a response to or for the inducement of a supply of goods or both or service or both. The recipient or any other person shall not include any subsidy given by central government, state government. However, deposit given in respect of the supply of goods and service or both shall not be considered as a payment. Deposit is not payment. and unless a supplier applies such deposit as a consideration of supply, when the advances deposit considered as supply, then is supply. A person includes individual, into family, company, firm, limited liability partnership, an association of a person or a body of individual, whether incorporated or not in India, outside India, then it is a person. Body corporate established under the Central Act, State Act, Provisional Act, or government company defined under Section 25, 2 plus 4, 2 plus 45 of the Companies Act. Any body corporate incorporated by under the law or outside the India. Cooperative society registered under the law, local authority, a central government, state government, society defined under the Security Register Act, trust or every artificial judicial person are not falling within the above. Principal supply means a supply of goods or service which constitute the predominant elements of composite supply, and in to which any of the supply formed a part of composite supply is auxiliary. India means territory of India referred under the Article 1 of Constitution. Territorial water, sea bed and subsoil underlying the subsoil underlying such a water, continental shell, exclusive economic zone or any other marine life. Marine life zone is referred to territorial water, continental shelf, exclusive economic zone, and other marine life zone 1976. The airspace above the territory or territorial water, that is also airspace. All the world, that is also Indian meaning. Aggregate turnover. That means aggregate value of all taxable supplies, not exempted supplies, excluding the value of inward supplies on which taxes payable by a person and reverse charge mechanism. Reverse charge mechanism cannot be included in taxable supplies. Exempted supplies, excluding exempted supplies, exempting export of goods or service or both the interstate supplies of a person having same permanent account number to be computed all India basis but excluding central tax, state tax, union territory tax, unit tax and integrated tax census. Services. Service means anything and other than the goods. Service means anything other than money and security, but includes activity related to use of money, activity relating to conversion by cash or by any other mode from one form of currency to denomination to another form of currency denomination for which separate consideration is charged. That is Bitcoin, it is indirectly, and USD, other dollars and euros, everything is here. Explanation. Removal of the doubt. It is nearby clarify the expression services. Services include tax on service applied by the stock brokers and the stock exchange for the facilitating a range of transaction securities. Write a note and concept of the supply under CGST Act. Write a note on concept of supply under CGST Act. Concept of supply. The concept of supply is a keystone for the GST architecture. The provision relating to the meaning and scope of supply and contained in Chapter 3 of the GST Act, read with the various schedules given under this Act. Scope of supply. Taxable events under the GST Section 7. Supply includes all form of supply of goods and service or both sale or the sales, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease and disposal of made or agreed to be made for the consideration by a person in the course and furtherance of business. That is supply. The activities or transaction by a person or other than an individual to a member or constitution or vice versa for cash, deferred payments or other valuable consideration is explanation. For the purpose of this clause, it is hereby clarified that notwithstanding anything contained in any of this law, for the time being in force of any judgment, decree or any other court or tribunal authority, the person and its members of the constitution shall be deemed to have two separate persons. Supply of activities or transfer or interlayer shall be deemed to be taking place from one such person to another. Import of service for consideration whether or not in course of furtherance of business, it's a supply. Activities specified in Schedule 3 made or agreed to be made without consideration is supply. Where certain activities or transaction constitute a supply in accordance with the provision 7.1 that G shall be treated as either supply or a goods, either goods or supply of goods or supply of services or the deferred schedule through. Notwithstanding anything in the content of section 1A, the activities of transactions specified in Schedule 3, and any such activities or transaction undertaken by central government or state government or any other local authority in which they have agreed to public authority as may be notified by the government or recommendation of the council shall be treated either as a supply of goods or supply of services. Subject to the provisions of section 1, 1A2, the government may, on the recommendation of the council, specify the notification transaction that can be treated as supply. Supply of goods and not the supply of service, and supply of service or supply of goods. Analysis of the supply. Inclusion definition. Section 7 of the CGST Act defines that supply of suppose scope of supply is in inclusive manner. The mode of supply mentioned section 7.1 are only in the forms of sub example. The list of not exhaustive. This is substantial to the use words such as in the definition. Broad category of supply. The discussion of regarding to the scope of supply shall be classified in the following two broad headings. Supply for consideration course and furtherance of business. Importation of service for consideration whether or not the course and furtherance of business. Supply without consideration. Activities to be treated as supply of goods or supply of services. Negative list of supply services. Enumerate the activities or transactions which shall be treated either as supply of goods or not as supply services. Section 7 to list down the activities or transactions which shall be neither treated as a supply or goods or not a supply of services. Negative list under GST. Service by employee to employee in course or in relation to the employment is not service. Service by a court or tribunal established under the law time being forced is not service. Negative list. The purpose of the para to the court includes district court, high court and supreme court is not a service. The function performed by the member of parliament, member of state legislation, member of panchayat, member of municipality, member of any other local service does not constitute a service. It's negative list. Duties performed by any person who holds any post in the pursuance and the provision of constitution in its capacity, it's not a service. Duties performed by any person as a chairman or a member of a director or a body established by the central government or a state government or local authority who is not deemed to be an employee before the commencement of this clause is not a service. Service by funeral, burial, crematory or mortuary including transportation of the deceased is not service. Sale of land is not a service subject to the negative list. It's subject to clause B, paragraph 5 of schedule 2 of the sale of building. Actionable claim. That is, it will be service when the property is sold before the completion of the completion certificate is issued. Then it is a service. Actionable claims such as lottery betting and actionable claims other than the lottery betting and gamblings are negative. Actionable claims B note. Merchant trading transaction supply of goods from place in non-taxable territory to another place in a non-taxable territory without such goods entering into India. That is not a service. Not an it's a negative list. Supply of warehouse goods to any person before clearance of home consumption. It is not an it's not cleared in India, so it is not it's a negative list. Expressing warehouse goods shall be same meaning assigned to Customs Act 1962. High CCL supply of goods by a consignee to any other person by endorsement of documents of title of goods after the goods has been dispatched from the port of origin located outside India but before the clearance of home consumption. One country the good has been exported and in the mid-sea they are transferring the title, then it will not include in the list of it's a negative list. Define the term compositions or mixed supplies under the and also explain the statutory provision under the respect of tax liability composition and mixed supplies. Section 2 class 30 composition supply means supply made by a taxable person to a recipient including two or more taxable supplies of goods and service or both or any of the combined therefore which is naturally bundled and supplied in conjunction with each other in the ordinary course of business. Not one of them is principal supply. Illustration where the goods are packed and transported with insurance. Supply of goods and packing materials, transport and insurance is a composite supply, and supply of goods is a principal supply. Section 2 class 74. Mixed supply means two or more individual supply of goods or supply services are combined, therefore made in conjunction with each other by a taxable person in a single price, where such supply does not constitute a composite supply. Illustration: the supply of packet consists of canned food, sweets, chocolates, cakes, dry fruits, aerated drinks, fruit juice, which supplied for a single price in a mixed supply. Each of the items can be supplied separately and not dependent on any other. It shall not be a mixed supply if these items are supplied separately. Section 9. Tax liability of composite and mixed supply. Tax liability of composite and mixed supply shall be determined on the following manner, namely, the composite supply comprises of two or more supplies, one of which is principal supply, shall be treated as supply of a principal supply. Example: SM Enterprises enter into contract with the XYZ Limited for a supply of ready-made shirts packed in a designer box of XYZ Limited outlet. Further, SM would also get them insured during a transit. In this case, supply of goods, packing material, transport, insurance is not a composite supply, while the supply of goods is a principal supply. The mixed supply comprises of two or more supplies treated as a supply, where the particular supply is set at the highest rate of tax. What is the scope? The scope of term supply defined section under the section 7 of CGST Act 2017. Section 7 1 of supplies included forms of supply of goods and service. All forms of supply of goods and service are both such as sale, transfer, barter, exchange, license, rental, lease, disposal, made and are made, agreed to be made for a consideration by a person, course and furtherance of business. The activities or transactions by a person or other than an individual, its member of a constitution or vice versa, for the cash, deferred payments, or a valuable consideration. The purpose of this clause is hereby classified, notwithstanding anything contained in any of the law of time being enforced, for any judgment, decree, or a court of law. Tribunals or a person or member of constitution shall be deemed to be two separate persons, and the supply of activities or transaction inter se shall be deemed to be take place from one such person to another. It cannot include the negative list. Import of service by a consideration with whether or not the course or furtherance of business for personal use. Activities are specified under Schedule 1 made or agreed to be made without consideration. Whereas certain activity or transaction constitute a supply in accordance with the provision of Section 1, they shall be treated as either a supply of goods or a supply of service as referred to Clause 2, notwithstanding anything that contained in subsection 1. And the activities or transactions specified in the Schedule 3 as activities or transactions undertaken by central government, state government, local authority in which they engage in the public authority as a case notified by the government or recommendation of the council shall be neither treated as supply nor as services. Service subject to the provisions of section 1A or 7.1, 7.2 of central government and recommendation of the council specify the notification of transaction they are not to be treated as supply of goods, not treated as service, and supply of service, not treated as supply of goods. Is it required to distinguish whether a particular supply involved supply of goods or service or both? Yes. CGST Act 2017 specifies certain provisions separately for supply of goods and service specified which are Section 12, Section 13 provide for ascertain the time of supply of goods and the time of supply of services. Irrespective, neither separate provision has been specified for the ascertained place of supply or also place of supply of services. For the tax rate applicable to supply of goods and supply of services may be different. Accordingly, important to distinguish whether the particular transaction involves supply of goods or supply of services. How to distinguish whether the particular supply involves supply of goods and service both. Schedule 2 append of CGST Act 2017 enlists activities which may be treated as supply of goods and supply of service. One may refer Schedule 2 for reference to Section 7. Classify whether the transaction involves supply of goods or supply of service. Whether supply of goods and service without consideration is liable for tax. The activities enumerated in Schedule 1 will qualify as supply even it is made without consideration. According such supplies in the absence of consideration is liable to tax. To illustrate the following, one of the or the examples which qualifies supplies in absence of consideration eventually will be liable to tax. Permanent transfer or disposal of business asset where input tax credit has been availed such asset, then it is liable. Then it is a transfer tax to be paid. Supply of goods or supply of service are both between related persons or between distinct persons specified in section 25. When main course and furtherance of business, then it is tax, subject to tax, provided the gifts not exceeding 25,50,000 value of rate financial year by the employer to employee shall not be treated as supply of goods or service or both. Supply of goods by the principal to its agent when the agent undertakes so when a principal to agent when an agent undertakes to supply such goods on behalf of principal, and by the agent to its by the principal to its agent where the agent undertakes the supply such goods to behalf of the principal. Supply of goods then the supply by the agent to its principal where the agent undertakes to receive such goods on behalf of the principal. Import of services by a taxable person from a related person or from any other establishment outside India in course and furtherance of business, then it is supply. Whether the transfer of goods to another branch located outside the state is taxable. Section 25, subclass 4, subsection 4 of CGST Act of 17, every person is required to obtain separate registration for every branch located in different state or union territory shall be treated as a distinct person. According to the supply of goods to be a branch located outside the state would be qualified to supply liable to tax in the terms of Class 2 of Schedule 1 of CGST Act 2017. Further, it is important to note that the supply of goods to a branch, other more important to note that supply of goods to a branch unit located right within the same state have a separate registration would also be liable to tax since both such units supplying unit recipient would be qualifying to distinct person in the section 5075 class 4. Whether the gifts received from the employer to employee will be qualified supply. The terms explanation 50, section 15 clarify the employer and employee will be deemed to be a related person. According to the terms provisions of class 2 or class 2 of schedule 1, gift by employer to employee will be supply will be liable to tax. However, any gifts from the value not exceeding 50,000 in the financial year will not qualify as supply, as such it is not liable to tax.